Hi everyone, it's Lisa from Sweet Bear Rescue Farm on the eve of Thanksgiving. We've gotten quite a few donations lately of some produce, so all the kids are getting a treat right now, having a, a pumpkin party and a tomato party. But George, and specifically this turkey, he's actually about blueberries more. Oh, they're gonna play keep away.
Look at him run with that.
I know. So to me, this is giving thanks. That turkey and his buddy on the fence line is Nelson, and they are safe and always will be. And they're going to have a beautiful day tomorrow, having our own kind of Thanksgiving feast for these crazy kids. Look at him go. I mean, just watching him run around with the tomato is kind of hilarious.
I know, I wish I could zoom in on him.
Go, buddy, go! This is my Thanksgiving miracle, is him running around holding on to a tomato.
Let me see if I can get up to him.
Get up. Georgie, get it!
Uh-oh.
Up! Y'all, we've got a game! Okay. All right, but guess what? We have more things. Look, Georgie, we have your favorite. We have your favorite. Come here. So, George loves blueberries. They're a big hit around here, as you can tell. Hi, buddy. Hi. So this kid has been with me for 4 years. His name is George. Like I said, I originally rescued him and another turkey through Farm Sanctuary. There were 4 turkeys rescued from a pretty horrific event that we will talk about later, because I try not to ever talk about an animal's trauma in front of them. I believe deeply that non-humans can pick up on energy better than we can, and when that energy is traumatic, they really don't need me kind of handing it back to them. So my goal here is to keep everything positive and loving and reassuring, and making sure that everyone that is here who has been through some craziness in their lives knows that this place is safe and they don't ever have to return to those thoughts or memories, and nothing bad will ever happen to them again. Is that right, bud? Is that right, bud? For the longest time, George wouldn't let me touch him, so this is pretty new. Really something calming about being with a turkey on the day before Thanksgiving, because, right now, for people like me who have a family that consists of turkeys, oh my God, you stuck my whole finger into your mouth, you lunatic. Just the act of going to the grocery store can be incredibly traumatic. It just looks like death, and it's been so normalized in our culture, which is really kind of sad to me, because if you think about it, this is in a lot of ways a holiday about genocide, and it doesn't have to be that way. There are some things in American history that we should not be very proud of, and there are some things that continue to this day around Thanksgiving that I don't think we should be very proud of. So without getting into too much detail in front of this guy, knowing that about 8 weeks ago, 46 million turkeys were killed in the honor of giving thanks, doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Okay, you can have so many of these. When Georgie came to live here, he came with his buddy Paul, and like I said, they went through a pretty traumatic event, and 6 months after they got here, Paul died. And it kind of destroyed George. It kind of destroyed me. He just never recovered from his injuries, from what he had been through. Okay, I have like one more. And I think we gave Nelson, we can give him some tomato. Yeah, that's it. So I have to do like clean hands club, so they know, just like with a kid, there are no more, or with a dog. Yeah, we should definitely go say hey to him. Yeah, I'm gonna get him a tomato. Oh my goodness, you all are very cute. You all are very cute. Let's turn it over. This is the better side. Here, get it up. Woo! what are you guys doing? These white chickens, the bigger ones, are called Cornish crosses. So these are factory farm chickens. These are the chickens that people eat. We need to control their diet because they are typically killed at 42 days old. So the chicken that you see in a store is a baby chick that has been genetically modified to just eat and grow and eat and grow. So if we didn't control their diet, they would honestly eat until they die. Chickens have something called a crop. It's almost like a first stomach. It kind of sits just below their neck, and it fills up with food, and it has some bacteria that breaks it down. If these guys are allowed to free feed, they will get what's called a crop impaction, where that food can't pass and it can ultimately kill them. So we need to keep them on a really controlled diet. So you can see how enthusiastic they get when they get a special treat like pumpkin. All right, now George is gonna get back in on this party. Oh, that's good stuff. That's good. Let's go in there with this, and we'll see if he'll eat it. Nelson, Georgie loves me. Nelson does not.
Are the miniature goats up here?
They're right there. Everybody's eating pumpkin right now. Okay, kid, look. You can have this, and you can have this. All right, but maybe you're being a little greedy. He's like, hey, it's Thanksgiving. I can be as greedy as I want. Come on in. And it's Nelson's turn. Hi, buddy. You want this all for yourself, kid? Let's see if we can give you some pumpkin without the goats ruining your fun. What I'm going to try to do is get Nelson in here and close the gate so that he gets all this pumpkin and nobody steals it from him. So
all right.
let's put this
I'll hang out
in.
with this guy while you do that. Hey,
Okay.
hey, come here.
Come in.
Uh-oh, it's not working. It's not working.
Come on. You stay. You come with Mom. I got him. All right. You're going to come with me. I know. He doesn't like me. So whenever I do
Nelson
that.
doesn't?
Nah.
Aw.
I know. You know what? I'm like the mom with the rules and the medication and all the things that he doesn't necessarily love. But what's this? You want that? He has a really hard time seeing. So I think with food like this, you know, it's funny. He has a hard time seeing. I think it's because he has very pale blue eyes. I also have very pale blue eyes, and I get it. They're not very practical in the light of day. How's that? How's that? Oh my goodness, it's all for you. Yeah, this is just your pumpkin. He loves people and he loves attention. He just kind of has had it with me. He had some medical issues, and so, you know, when you're the person that's like holding them and deworming them or treating their feet or trying to clean their sinuses or whatever, he's just very particular and he gets like super irritated with me. He also is very particular about colors. He doesn't like the color blue very much. He'll allow it with new people, but if it's me, my winter coat is actually bright blue and he can't stand it. Which is actually kind of funny because sometimes I'll go in there in the morning just to feed him and I'll be like, that's fine, but you got to get out of here because that coat, it's not doing it for me. But I'm so happy he's eating this pumpkin. And actually pumpkin and the seeds is filled with probiotics, so it's very good for all of them. Just so everybody knows, whenever you give treats to animals, you kind of need to do a search to make sure there's nothing in that fruit, vegetable, whatever it might be, crossover food that can hurt somebody. Goats have a very particular palate. Doesn't seem like it because they have this reputation as being like scavengers that will eat anything. But I did look, pumpkin is fine for goats. It's great for birds. It's filled with probiotics. So everybody does get in on the fun. And we had a lot of pumpkin donations this year, which is awesome. So because the kids love them and it turns everything into, when I say the kids, means all the animals that live here, which is close to 50. This is a family-oriented sanctuary. So we all kind of like cohabitate and everyone is friends. We're a bit on the smaller side. 50 animals sounds like a lot, but we are able to kind of keep everyone harmonious in a lot of space that's adequate for them. And also I think because they know that they're safe, they pick up on the energy of the elders that have been here for a while. And they're creating bonds through intuitive communication across species. All of these things I didn't realize until, I'll be honest with you, until COVID hit and I spent a year and a half without humans. And I was with animals all the time and just kind of observing their behavior and how they interact with each other and how the turkeys will take such great care of, say, the chickens. So both of the turkeys kind of have an eye to the sky all the time, checking out for hawks, owls, things like that. And if they see a predator, they'll get all the chickens into the barn and make sure to keep everyone safe. They're just these majestic, beautiful, intelligent animals. You can tell that Nelson here is happy because turkeys are kind of like mood rings. They change the color of their head based on the mood that they're in. So when they're really happy, they're usually blue or a very bright red or kind of a combination of those things, and they'll display their feathers. This kid right now, because he lives with so many other animals, he's so into this because I think he thinks somebody might come over and take it. You know what I mean? It's not going to happen, buddy. It's all yours. Even though he doesn't look like he's thrilled right now, it's just because he's concentrating on getting all that good pumpkin meat. And you can see his head is pretty blue, so he's a happy guy.
So what are you going to be doing on the holidays since it's such a different day for us? Like, how do you typically spend it?
So Thanksgiving, I started talking about this a little bit earlier. I think for people, there are vegans and then there are vegans that run sanctuaries and or volunteer on sanctuaries, etc. People that have relationships with turkeys. So I'd kind of actually like to touch on two things. The first would be personhood, the idea that an animal, a non-human animal, is an individual. We tend to lump them together and other them using terms like flocks and herds, beef, pork, etc., without calling them who and what they are. So this is a turkey, and his name is Nelson. He has very specific likes and dislikes. He has friends. He has enemies. I'm enemy number one. I'm not in this to make him love me. I'm in this because I wanted to provide a good home for him. And also, when the turkey Paul died, George got really depressed and he needed a buddy. And so they kind of have saved each other. And I think there's something so beautiful and magical about their bond. And that just goes back to what I said about personhood. George went through a lot and he was very sad for a long time. And then Nelson came along. I know, you want to bite me? I know. Who's a person who speaks his language. And they love each other very much, but they're completely different. So Nelson doesn't particularly care for me, but he does love pats and attention. He doesn't talk too much. George will talk nonstop every day, but doesn't really like to be touched because I think he carries a little bit of residual trauma from what he went through. So he's fine. He's just kind of like, you know what? Maybe keep your hands off me, and that's understandable. You can read his whole story in The Atlantic. They came down here to meet Georgie in 2018. Just Google Atlantic, the Atlantic magazine, and Yellville, and you can see George's story, but we'll probably talk about that in a little bit as well. So this kid looks maybe pumpkined out. You gonna do a little bit more? See, this is what it should be like for a turkey every day. And then yesterday I was driving around and saw 4 male wild turkeys just so blissed out and free. And it just crushed me. I just sat in my car and cried. I don't understand how anybody could look at an animal this majestic and funny and kind and smart and beautiful and interesting and think about putting them in the oven. Because it's never gonna happen. Not to you. I don't care if you don't like me. I don't have any more food. You can get mad at me. You can get mad at me? I know. I love you, bud. You don't have to love me back, but I love you. And here. Do it. What's this? Let's get goopy. What's this? You're not even gonna take it from me? No. Mm-mm. He's like, put it down, double woman. Yeah, good boy. I love you no matter what, kid. I love you no matter what, kiddo. I don't have, I don't have any more. My hands are empty. What do you want to tell me? That you love blueberries? Is this the whole message? Huh? So this is 4 years in, he'll barely let me touch him, but this is like the most flattering thing in the world. What are you doing? You think George is gonna get something, you're gonna get something? Huh? You're a good boy. Like I said, this kid loves to talk. He loves his name, he loves company, and his head is very purple right now, which means he's in an awesome mood. When we give tours, he really likes to lead, you know what I mean? He feels like he's kind of like the ambassador of this place. It's pretty adorable. Hi, and this is Shar, who you know. This is one of the first chickens I've ever rescued, and I love her so much, it's crazy. Is that true? Is this true? Yeah, she's kind of a legend. So it is the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. This holiday has always been a little bit strange for me. Before I was vegan, I remember the first time I prepared a turkey and took it out of the packaging and put my hand inside of the body of an animal and pulled out some of its organs that were prepackaged. And I knew in that moment that it was wrong, but I didn't change because societal norms just didn't give me the kind of freedom to do that, and I wasn't brave enough. So I have now been vegan for 8 years. My anniversary was 2 weeks ago, which I'm really proud of, and I was vegetarian for 8 years before that. So I feel really good about the fact that I haven't consumed an animal in 16 years now. Part of that journey led me to opening my own sanctuary, and before I did that, part of the impetus was to just live with turkeys. The first one I met was at Piedmont Farm Animal Refuge, which is also here in North Carolina, and I met some turkeys there and was blown away by how charming they were and how much they wanted to impress humans, and just how funny and sweet and affectionate and different they were from each other, you know. Some wanted to do a little dance while another one just wanted to hug a little bit, and I just could not believe how magnificent these creatures were. So it was on my radar to start a sanctuary, and I knew that I wanted turkeys to be a part of it. So I reached out to Farm Sanctuary in Watkins Glen, who I love, and I've had a great relationship with them for years. And I managed to get on their Adopt Out program. So they will adopt out animals to other sanctuaries. You go through a pretty intense vetting process, which I'm ultimately incredibly grateful for, knowing that all the animals that they adopt out have been, you know, going to homes that have been thoroughly vetted. So they wanted to make sure that I had appropriate vets, I had appropriate fencing, that I was vegan, that activism was a part of my life, that I would tell their stories, etc. So 4 years ago, 2 turkeys came to live here, and their names were George and Paul. And George and Paul were part of a pack of 4 turkeys, the Fab Four. The other 2 would be John and Ringo, obviously, if you haven't figured that out. The dark side of that is that they went through an event called the Yellville turkey drop, which is exactly as horrific as it sounds. So in Yellville, Arkansas, there is a festival every year called the Yellville Turkey Trot. And for about 60 years of that, they did something called the turkey drop. And they would take live turkeys into an airplane and go up 500 feet and throw them out. And turkeys are not birds that can fly. Every bird thrown out of a plane died, splattered on the ground. But they did other things as well. And this was put on by the Chamber of Commerce. So this was widely accepted culturally in this town. They threw birds off of buildings. So George, who you have met, was actually tossed off a building. and Paul was thrown off of a stage into a crowd of people who were literally pulling his body apart, when an incredible activist ran in and literally grabbed them and got them the hell out. So they went to Farm Sanctuary for 3 months to heal from their injuries and their trauma. And that next February, they came to live here. Part of that vetting process is that Farm Sanctuary brings the animals to you on the first round because they want to they really want to see for themselves, do a site check. And I remember when they came here, it was snowing so hard that the Farm Sanctuary truck was too big to bring down my driveway. So we carried, one of the Farm Sanctuary employees and myself carried these 2 birds down the driveway into the barn. And I fell so madly in love in that moment with the 2 of them. And then 6 months later, we lost Paul, who again was thrown off of a stage into a crowd of people, and he never fully recovered from those injuries. And George just spiraled. He just wasn't the same. He had gone through so much in his life, like so much abuse, so much cruelty from humanity, and he came here and he flourished because he was here with his best friend and he knew he was safe. And he just couldn't deal with the loss of his buddy. And that's when the Atlanta came to meet him to tell that story, because he wouldn't puff his feathers. He wouldn't talk. He didn't want to leave the roost. He barely ate. And I would just sit with him so devastated and broken for what this one turkey person had been through. And I would have done anything to fix things for him. And ultimately we found Nelson. We kind of manifested a turkey. And the day they met, he came right back. It was so incredible. He came completely back. His head turned blue. His feathers showed up. They started talking. There were about 8 or 9 people here helping with the transport, and everyone was sobbing. A friend came over later that day, and George came and greeted her at the door and puffed up and walked her over to introduce her to Nelson. He just couldn't believe that somebody was back in his life that speaks his language. So my association with turkeys is one of love and pain and grief and bravery, resiliency, and just unconditional, survivor.
Thank you for giving us this story right before Thanksgiving, because hopefully it'll make its way to other people that might appreciate it as much and be thankful that you gave this story and not want to perpetuate the violence that's so normalized.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, because when I talk about George and his story, it's so insane. What he went through is so insane. And yet buying a turkey in a store and putting your hand into their carcass and pulling out organs is so normalized. Where is the disconnect between these 2 stories? How humans are so horrified by what George went through, and yet what 46 million turkeys go through every year. These animals are killed at 3 to 4 months. They live in cramped and confined environments. They're tormented every single day of their existence. Literally, the best day of their lives is the day that it ends and they are killed, even though that is horrific. And then they end up being served to a family in a celebration. It's on so many levels the parallel. You're talking about celebrating the death of an individual for entertainment or for nostalgia or history or social norms. Yellville is everyone. Yellville is Thanksgiving. It's just offensive because people see the abuse in a completely different way. Every one of those 46 million turkeys that have died to sit on a plate tomorrow was horrifically abused every moment of its life. I think you just kind of need an individual to see through all of the madness of just othering millions of animals, not to mention the fact that it's destroying the planet and, a plethora of other things. But I'm glad that I live with him. I love him so much. I learn from him constantly. I'm glad that I can share his story. I really do hope that it helps people see turkeys in a different light. I invite people to please come and meet him or find a local sanctuary and meet a turkey, meet a pig, meet a goat, meet a chicken, have a conversation, have a blueberry and a pumpkin party. See them for who they are. And I guess the other side of it is my role isn't to feed them back their own trauma. My job is to make them feel safe and loved and secure. And that's why we're talking about this here. I won't talk about this around George. I feel like he can pick up on that energy. I don't know if that's true or not. I firmly believe it in my heart, and it's not a risk I'm willing to take for his emotional and mental well-being. So when I go into pasture and do feedings and spend time with the animals, it's joy, because they're magic. The fact that I get to share my life with them is so incredible. It's mind-blowing how much joy and love and peace I get from them. And again, wisdom and bravery and resilience and forgiveness above all. And I use that to forgive humanity in my life, because I can't help them if I'm in the fetal position in my bedroom, just taking on the pain of what's going on to all of these animals. So I figured out a way to stay healthy through it so I could be the best version of myself for them.
How can people celebrate Thanksgiving and be thankful for something that doesn't involve violence?
Yeah. Well, actually, I think I was going to say something earlier about speciesism as well. I had mentioned personhood and individuals and speciesism. Speciesism is the belief that a dog has, for some reason, some more intrinsic value as a sentient being on this planet that was designed by a higher power than a turkey, who is a sentient being on this planet designed by a higher power. But both have been manipulated by humans. And so when you talk about veganism, these two concepts are really, really important to me: personhood and speciesism. And people, I think, believe that vegans are always in this state of like angst and grief, and that our food is boring, and you know what I mean? Our food is not boring. Thanksgiving, for the thanks living side of it, is absolutely amazing. I've never felt depleted or cheated of a food item in my life, and this is 16 years without eating animals. You can eat amazing food. I haven't eaten an animal in 16 years. We didn't have these options way back in the early 2000s. I mean, it's a feast, and there's absolutely no reason to have cruelty on your plate. Absolutely none. I don't feel like I'm restricted. I feel like going vegan was the most liberating thing I've ever done with my life. It's the thing I'm most proud of. It allows me to feel honest with myself and whole. I think anything else would be living a lie. I think once you reach a certain point in your life, there's just no going back to behaving in a way that is so completely destructive and goes against who you are as a person. It's just removed so that you don't have to see it. You see the packaged product side of it. I've always felt very liberated by not eating animals, and tomorrow is going to be one of those days. But I avoid the historical context of the day in every possible way. And that includes what we've done to the native people on this land and what we've done to the animals that sit on the plates.
Well, hopefully the vegans out there dealing with family members on this holiday can find a way to make it through that day without being as frustrated as I have been. It's really hard when you go to a family member's house and you see the animal in the way that we do, that's sitting on the table. And
you just want to have like a funeral for it, or just like take the carcass and bury it afterwards and just say something kind so that their memory can be respected.
But then you have to deal instead with people, just glorifying it.
Or yelling about politics, or doing a myriad of other things that tends to like add to the angst that you're already feeling. And I found that like since I started doing purely vegan Thanksgivings, all of that kind of goes away. It's really de-stressing the environment when everybody's kind of on the same page and they're in it for true peace from the human and the non-human perspective.
Yeah, and there's actually an event I think that goes on maybe this week every year that's maybe in the area that's like a big vegan Thanksgiving event. Have you heard about that?
I don't know about that one in particular. There are quite a few of them. A lot of the sanctuaries do them. We had a big event here a couple of weeks ago, so we opted not to do one this week. Yeah, just because of my bandwidth, I work a ton. We're really focused on fundraising right now. My birthday is also on Friday. I lost my father a few months ago, so it'll be my first birthday without my father. It's Thanksgiving and I live with turkeys. You know what I mean? It's a lot of emotion. I believe that what I'm doing is my highest calling. I believe that the world and humans as individuals want to be better, and they can. And I try not to pass judgment and instead just be a steward for the good of the planet and all of her inhabitants. So I'm here all the time. If anybody wants to talk, you can reach out to me directly. If you go to our social media platforms, we are Sweet Bear Rescue Farm. So it's at Sweet Bear Rescue on Instagram and it's Sweet Bear Rescue Farm on Facebook. And literally you can talk to me about any of these things, what to eat, why to eat, how to handle the depression side of it, how to get in contact with local sanctuaries, how to volunteer, how to meet a turkey, alternatives to things you can eat that are absolutely amazing, and how you can just really fight to make the world a more loving place every second of every day.
Well, listen, we got a soundtrack.
Yeah. I hope they're not after me.
Well, I appreciate your time. You're going to wake up tomorrow morning with so many grateful others around you.
My babes, yeah. Like I said, we've gotten a bunch of pumpkin donations. Yeah. We just had some tomato donations. So every day, mid-afternoon, we're having a party right now, which is pretty awesome. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah.
I wish I could see your morning routine. I mean, is it pretty complicated?
No, it's pretty easy. So like I said, we just brought in 3 more goats, another pig, and 5 chickens. So it's just an adjustment period that usually takes, I mean, with these guys, it took about 2 weeks to get a new system in place because there's a lot of like separation before you feed. Or one or 2 animals would get all the food. So just figuring out who can go with who during the morning feedings and the evening feedings has been a little bit tricky, but I think we have a solid routine lockdown. And then when we do the party time with the pumpkins and the tomatoes and the grapes and the berries, that's a free-for-all for everyone. So that's real cute and they love it. I think you got some keep away, George playing soccer with a tomato. And some chickens. It's pretty cute.
Well, I appreciate your time again. It's always fun to come and visit, and I look forward to the next time. And
I love when we do these. I love the interviews here. I love interviewing other people. I still think to this day my interview with Dr. Garth Davis that you and I did together is one of my favorite things we've ever done.
What about that music video? That was pretty fun.
That was amazing.
That was kind of close to this time of year too.
Yeah, well, what I'm really trying to do is just throw out some names of some people I'd like to interview.
Oh yeah, Dominique. I want to get him in the mix, Dominique.
Well, I'd love to get Dom Thompson, John Lewis, who is my absolute hero, Pinky Cole. I just went to Slutty Vegan for the first time last week. Yeah. Brenda Sanders. I think I said John Lewis. I would love to be able to amplify Black voices in this movement and be the one behind the scenes asking the questions and put the spotlight on people who are doing the true intersectional, badass, amazing, incredible, brave work.
Yeah, I've got a playlist of Black vegans that it's just growing and growing. It's such an awesome playlist. And but next year.
Oh, Lizzo, let's interview Lizzo next year. I went to see her a couple of weeks ago, no big deal. Only my favorite human in the world who happens to be vegan.
So next year I do have like an itinerary that's growing of bodybuilders that I'll be getting.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, so I'll be getting a lot
Tori
of that.
Washington, let's do it. Let's get John Lewis, Dom Thompson, Tori Washington. Yes, let's get those men.
Cool. Well, I appreciate your time and happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, thank you.
Or Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Is that the best way to say it?
I love to say Thanksgiving, and I'm going to go sweet talk those two handsome gentlemen as much as I can over the next few days.
Awesome.
I know,
Well,
even though Nelson doesn't like me, I don't care. I love him.
thanks for this time and happy Thanksgiving.
Yep, happy Thanksgiving.